Musk's recent announcement of the imminent arrival of Rapture has attracted widespread interest, adding a modern touch to a concept that has fascinated humanity for centuries. Musk's endorsement of this belief carries weight given his influential status in our times. Musk has stated that Rapture, a phenomenon that has attracted human attention for centuries. The minds behind Tesla and SpaceX dig deep into a subject that has fascinated humanity for generations, offering insights into why they believe in it and the potential ramifications that could reshape it, our understanding of the future. Join us as we unravel Elon Musk's secret words and their potential implications for the destiny of humanity. The idea of the rapture, especially embraced by American evangelicalism, occurs as a pivotal event in eschatology, envisioning a climactic moment in the end times. At this important moment, the deceased Christian souls, who have long been waiting for the divine summons, will be resurrected with joy. These resurrected saints then unite with the living believers in a heavenly encounter arranged by heaven, transcending earthly limits to meet their Lord in heaven. The term rapture originates from the early epistle to the Thessalonians, where the Greek word harpazo, meaning to snatch or seize, encapsulates the essence of this sacred event. It is necessary to acknowledge that the concept of the rapture as understood today is a relatively recent theological innovation. Its origins lie in the heated theological discussions of the 1930s, and it holds a special place in period premillennialism, a complex system of beliefs that pose its prophecies in the Bible that has not yet been fulfilled will be open-ended in the future. Elon Musk and Christianity may seem like an unlikely pair at first glance. Given Musk's reputation as a tech entrepreneur and innovator with ventures such as Tesla, SpaceX, and Neuralink. However, Musk's occasional remarks and discussions about religion, particularly Christianity, have stirred curiosity and sparked conversations about the intersection of his beliefs and the Christian faith. In a revealing interview with the Babylon Bee, a satirical news website with a Christian perspective, Musk engaged in a thoughtful discussion about his views on Jesus Christ and religion. When asked about accepting Jesus as his Lord and Savior, Musk offered a nuanced perspective, expressing agreement with the principles advocated by Jesus. He acknowledged the wisdom in Jesus' teachings, emphasizing the significance of turning the other cheek, forgiveness, and the timeless adage, love thy neighbor as thyself. While not explicitly aligning himself with traditional Christian doctrines, Musk's acknowledgement of Jesus' teachings as insightful reveals a certain resonance with Christian moral principles. Despite Musk's openness to embracing elements of Jesus' teachings, he admitted to having questions about God, faith, and the biblical narratives. In this, Musk exemplifies a characteristic skepticism and curiosity, mirroring a broader trend in contemporary discourse where individuals, irrespective of their backgrounds, grapple with questions about spirituality and existence. His willingness to engage in a discussion about significant religious topics demonstrates a recognition of the importance of such conversations for humanity, indicating a nuanced and evolving perspective on matters of faith. Musk's acknowledgement of having prayed for the opportunity to discuss these profound topics reflects a sense of spiritual contemplation. While not explicitly identifying with a particular religious denomination, Musk's recognition of the importance of spiritual conversations on a global scale suggests an awareness of the potential impact of shared values and beliefs in fostering understanding and unity. Among diverse communities, the intersection of Elon Musk's ventures with Christian discourse becomes particularly intriguing when exploring the concept of the rapture. A belief deeply rooted in certain Christian circles, Musk's cryptic statement about the rapture happening soon made during the Babylon Bee interview adds a layer of complexity to the relationship between his futuristic endeavors and biblical prophecies. The rapture, commonly associated with eschatological beliefs, envisions a climactic event in the end times where believers are caught up to meet Christ, an idea often linked to a celestial reunion, and the fulfillment of divine promises. While the Babylon Bean interview provides a glimpse into Musk's thoughts on Christianity and the rapture, it raises questions about the extent to which his technological pursuits align with or challenge traditional religious narratives. SpaceX, with its ambitious goals of interplanetary colonization and the vision of making humanity a multiplanetary species, introduces a unique perspective. Some Christians may view these ventures through the lens of biblical interpretations about the end times and the idea of a new heaven and a new earth. Musk's role as a visionary entrepreneur, pushing the boundaries of human exploration, may inadvertently resonate with certain biblical themes of transcendence and the anticipation of a future transformed by divine intervention. In the realm of biblical prophecy, particularly regarding the rapture, there is a captivating diversity of beliefs. The pre-tribulation rapture theory, which gained popularity in the 19th century, posits that believers will be taken up to meet Jesus before a period of tribulation on earth. This theory, widely embraced among certain evangelical circles, has connections to interpretations of biblical passages from books like Daniel and Revelation. Musk's statement about the imminent rapture adds a layer of intrigue, raising questions about whether he sees his ventures as contributing to humanity's preparation for such transformative events. Musk's ventures, such as SpaceX with its mission to establish a human presence on Mars, may be interpreted in various ways within Christian eschatology. Some may see parallels with the idea of seeking refuge in celestial realms during apocalypse, while others might view it as an audacious human endeavor to transcend earthly limitations. The intertwining of Musk's futuristic vision and Christian beliefs invites contemplation on how technological advancements intersect with religious narratives about the future of humanity. It's essential to recognize the complex and multifaceted nature of beliefs and interpretations, both within Christianity and Elon Musk's worldview. Musk's occasional remarks about religion, combined with his ambitious technological pursuits, create a rich tapestry of conversation where questions about faith, the future, and the interplay between human innovation and divine promises come to the forefront. As discussions unfold, the relationship between Elon Musk and Christianity becomes a dynamic exploration of the intersection between visionary aspirations, scientific progress, and age-old religious contemplations. In an interesting conversation with Babylon Bee, Elon Musk, billionaire, visionary, and co-founder of Tesla, engaged in an insightful discussion about his views on Jesus Christ and religion. When asked about accepting Jesus as his Lord and Savior, Musk gave a nuanced answer, admitting agreement with the principles Jesus advocated. He expressed admiration for the wisdom of Jesus' teachings, emphasizing concepts such as turning the other cheek, forgiveness, and the golden rule of treating others as we would like to be treated, want to be treated. Musk especially emphasized the timeless wisdom encapsulated in the phrase, "Love your neighbor as yourself." Although not deeply interested in religious practices, Musk is open to the idea of salvation, optimistically declaring, "Sure, I'll be saved." Why not? Although he admits he was baptized as a child, he candidly admits he has many questions about God, faith, and the Bible's accounts of Jesus. Musk, although not openly religious, revealed that he prayed for the opportunity to discuss such profound topics, believing that this conversation had great significance for humanity. In a time when uplifting news is scarce, he hopes that this dialogue can be seen as a globally celebrated achievement, bringing brightness to the lives of people across the globe. In the realm of biblical prophecy, there is an interesting division among premillennialists, making a clear distinction between the rapture and the second coming. This story opens in two separate chapters, both of which revolve around the glorious return of Jesus. The first act, called the Rapture, is a moment of divine rescue where the faithful are swept into the heavenly light. The second act, the second coming, depicts Jesus' return in glory, marking the great climax of the cosmic story. Some premillennialists assert that the rapture is preceded by a period of tribulation consistent with the literal interpretation of the Apostle Paul's teachings. In contrast, amillennialists see it as a one-act play devoid of Christ's thousand-year earth. Among these diverse beliefs, amillennialists, postmillennialists, and historical premillennialists have a unified view, explaining the rapture as appropriate, coincides with the return of Jesus. From this perspective, there is no need to divide chapters. It is considered a grand unifying event. The timing of the rapture includes many eschatological beliefs. From a millennial and postmillennial perspectives, there is no distinction as to the timing of the rapture. It is considered consistent with the return of Jesus in a spiritual or symbolic millennium. According to the premillennial view, the pre-tribulation view posits a sequential separation between the rapture and the second coming, envisioning a rapture preceded by a 7-year tribulation period, culminating in the return of Christ, and followed by a 1,000-year messianic kingdom. This theory has its origins from Bible translations, especially as discovered by John Nelson Darby in 1833. While pre-tribulation is popular among rapture believers today, it faces controversy in missionaries. Some proponents of the post-tribulation rapture view advocate a different sequence of events, challenging the pre-tribulation view and adding depth to the rich tapestry of eschatological discussions. Premillennialist views. In the early chapters of church history, a popular belief known as Chililism emerged, originating from the teachings of Eusebius. This view suggests that many centuries will pass after the resurrection of the dead, before the kingdom of Christ appears on earth. Early church leaders such as Irenaeus embraced this idea, using the teachings of Eusebius to support their views, pointing to the ancient origins of these beliefs. Schaff, a notable expert on the subject, has asserted that Chililism also recognizes millenarianism, played an important role in the eschatological beliefs of the early church. According to Chililism, it is clear that Christ will reign on earth with the resurrected saints for 1,000 years before the final judgment. Over time, this theological landscape split into two distinct schools of thought, the Antioch and Alexandrian schools. The school of Alexandria, influenced by the Greek Jewish scholar Philo, proposed an allegorical interpretation of the millennium. Theologians in this tradition believe that Christ's 1,000-year reign represents his rule from heaven rather than a literal earthly kingdom. This allegorical interpretation prevailed for over a millennium, promoted by influential scholars such as Origen and Augustine, both adherents of the Alexandrian school. In contrast, the Antiochian school favored a literal interpretation of religious texts, avoiding a broadly symbolic approach. Although they did not vehemently challenge the symbolic millennium proposed by the Alexandrians, they insisted on a more direct reading of the biblical passages. In the 12th century, guided by the visionary thoughts of Gioacchino Fiore, a wave of predictions about the future appeared. Gioacchino foresaw the rejuvenation of the earth, the introduction of the Jews into a new faith, and the birth of a remarkable era known as the millennium. His teachings captivated minds throughout Europe, setting the stage for future interpretations of biblical prophecy. In 1590, in the Catholic Church, the Jesuit Francisco Ribera introduced a groundbreaking concept, the gathering of the elect, speaking to what is now recognized as the rapture. Ribera envisioned this event occurring just 45 days before the climax of the 5-year tribulation period, bringing new perspectives into eschatological discussions. The Puritans, monks, and Cotton Mather of the 17th century contributed significantly to the development of rapture doctrine in America. Their beliefs painted a vivid picture of believers being lifted from earth to the heavenly skies, followed by divine judgment in the next millennium. Influential figures such as Robert Mayen, Nathaniel Holmes, John Brown, Thomas Vincent, Henry Danvers, and William Sherwin added their unique interpretations, shaping the conceptual framework of the rapture. Although the term rapture was not used explicitly, the concept became more explicit during the 17th and 19th centuries. Edward Irving, in the early 19th century, expanded on the idea by way of introducing Christ's two-stage return. Irving proposed a secret rapture event before the rise of the Antichrist, further crystallized by his contemporary Edward Miller in the trilogy of gatherings symbolizing the righteous, the harvest, and the gathering of the wicked. In this complex tapestry of theological thought, the concept of the rapture gradually evolved. Each visionary, from Joachim of Fiore to Mathers, Edward Irving, and Edward Miller, adds their unique touch, enriching the story of hope and transcendence. The rapture, as it is understood today, is the result of centuries of deep thought, interpretation, and insight, combining history, theology, and mystery to create a compelling story about future pre-tribulation rapture. The pre-tribulation perspective reveals a fascinating vision of future events in Christian eschatology, asserting that the rapture, where Jesus calls his followers, will take place before the tribulation period lasts 7 years, with his second coming marking the end of this tumultuous period. In this story, the rapture represents Jesus finding his faithful people, while the second coming represents his return to the redeemed church. The origins of this belief can be traced back to the early 19th century, when John Nelson Darby introduced and popularized the pre-tribulation rapture theory in 1827. Initially adopted by many of the Plymouth Brethren movement in England, Darby and his contemporaries left an indelible mark on American Christianity. Their influence went far beyond their written contributions, profoundly shaping eschatology and Christian fundamentalism. The Bible Conference movement, which began in 1878 with the Niagara Bible Conference, played a key role in espousing futurist views of the premillennial period and the pre-modern rapture. These conferences, which explored both historicist and futurist premillennialism, eventually steered the trajectory toward widespread acceptance of the latter, especially among Presbyterian elders, Baptists, and congregations. Furthermore, popular publications played an important role in popularizing pre-tribulation rapture beliefs. Blackstone's Jesus is Coming, published in 1870 and selling an astonishing 3 million copies in the Scofield Reference Bible, first published in 1909 and 1919 with revised editions. Subsequent changes in 1967 contributed significantly to the spread of this view. One intriguing aspect of the pre-tribulation rapture theory is its claimed historical origin, with themes pointing to the 7th century document known as the Apocalypse of Pseudo-Ephraim the Syrian, one of the earliest references to the concept. While scholars debate the authenticity and interpretation of the text, it adds a fascinating layer to the history of pre-tribulation faith. References to the pre-tribulation rapture can also be found in documents from the 18th and 19th centuries. Baptist theologian Morgan Edwards' 1788 essay and the work of Catholic priest Manuel Lacunza in 1812, translated by Edward Irving in 1827, contributed to the early presentation and dissemination of this view. The 1970s saw a resurgence of rapture beliefs, largely thanks to Hal Lindsey's influential book, The Late Great Planet Earth, and the movie A Thief in the Night, both of which attracted widespread attention. However, it was not until 1995 that the doctrine of the pre-tribulation rapture became widely recognized, with Tim LaHaye's Left Behind series selling nearly 80 million copies, inspiring film adaptations and real-time strategy video games. The series left a lasting impact on modern Christian thought. Some scholars, such as Thomas Ice, have suggested that traces of the pre-tribulation rapture concept can be discerned in the writings of the Church Fathers and early Christian writers, revealing a history of Catholicism. Richness and diversity have shaped the contemporary Christian perspective. The journey of faith before the tribulation reflects an evolving theological landscape that invites believers to ponder the mysteries of the future. The mid-tribulation perspective introduces a fascinating twist to the story of the rapture. Unlike other views, mid-tribulationists hold that this divine event occurs precisely in the middle of the tribulation period, a period of time divided into two periods, each lasting 5 years long. According to this view, the faithful are expected to experience the first stage, commonly known as the first stage of labor. However, before the rising divine wrath that occurs in the second half, known as the Great Tribulation, these believers will experience the rapture, ascending to the celestial realm. Central to this view is an interpretation of Daniel 7:25, a prophetic passage that foretold that the saints would encounter tribulation during a period of time described as times, and half a time understood as 3.5 years. In the midst of this time, it was prophesied that the Antichrist would commit a grave act called the abomination of destruction by desecrating the sacred temple in Jerusalem. Although not as widely accepted as other views, the mid-tribulation view provides insight into the timing of the rapture within the broader context of Daniel's 70th week, and contributing to the complex tapestry of eschatological interpretation. The rapture perspective before the world reveals a unique lens through which to interpret the events of the end times, providing access and insight during the tribulation period. This view places the rapture, the time when believers ascend to meet the Lord before the return of Christ. Imagine the 7-year period known as Daniel's 70th week, where tensions escalate. During the latter part of these 7 years, challenges increase for the church, marked by the ominous appearance of the Antichrist in the temple. The next 5 years, known as the Great Tribulation, were a period of high chaos. However, the exact duration of this intense period remains uncertain, adding an element of suspense to the unfolding story. Support for the pre-wrath interpretation comes from passages in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, which indicated that the tribulation will be alleviated by the appearance of Christ, like a hero stepping in when darkness covers. The rapture, which occurs after specific events described in the book of Revelation, marks a turning point in the plot. When the sixth seal is opened, the sun darkens and the moon turns crimson, creating a breathtaking scene. Up to this point, many Christians may have faced persecution at the hands of the Antichrist. Rapture becomes the pivotal moment when the tide begins to turn. However, the story unfolds further after the rapture, delving into God's divine plan in the seventh seal of wrath. A climactic chapter that tells of divine justice, the sound of the trumpet, and the pouring out of bowl, commonly known as the Lord's Day. During this dramatic and awe-inspiring period, God's retribution unfolds, delivering justice to the unjust and adding depth to the overarching story that spans the remaining 7 years. Attractive theories of partial, conditional, or selective rapture posit that the rapture experience is exclusive to devout Christians, and that it takes place before the beginning of the Great Tribulation. The crux of this theory lies in an individual's closeness to God, which goes beyond mere association and goes deep into their deep spiritual relationship. The proponents of this view argue that the timing of a person's conversion before the tribulation plays an important role in determining their eligibility for the rapture. Some go a step further, arguing that only those who maintain a strong faith and cultivate a deep, authentic relationship with God will participate in this celestial event. Conversely, believers who do not meet these criteria are said to face resurrection during the chaotic tribulation, which specifically occurs between the fifth and sixth seals, as stated in the book of Revelation, Huyan. Sadly, these individuals may have met their demise amidst the tumultuous events of this period. Another aspect of the selective rapture theory proposes that remaining believers who do not meet the strict criteria may experience the rapture during the tribulation itself or immediately after the tribulation ends. Here, David, an advocate of this view, suggests that the saints will be raptured in successive groups based on their readiness during the Great Tribulation. This nuanced theological perspective is consistent with post-tribulational premillennialism, in which the rapture is closely tied to the second coming of Jesus or a celestial encounter with him in the heavens. Heaven just before his triumphant return to earth. According to this framework, the rapture is strategically placed at the height of the tribulation period, literally before the millennium. Post-tribulation, premillennialists assert that the entire church, without exception, will survive the tribulation, finding biblical support in passages such as Matthew 24, 29, 31. Declaring immediately after the tribulation of those days, they will gather together his elect. According to this view, the rapture is considered an event that occurs concurrently with the second coming of Christ. When Jesus returns, believers are met with him in the sky, and then at the same time accompany him on his triumphant journey back to earth. Get further support from Paul's epistles, especially passages such as 1 and 52, where describing the trumpet sound after the tribulation as a herald of Christ's return. Post-tribulationists express their views. Story. Revelation 11:15 is consistent with this view, emphasizing the binding of sin. And Revelation 24:6 describes the 1,000-year reign of believers with Christ, marking the resurrected first. This complex tapestry of biblical interpretation and theological insight contributes to a rich landscape of eschatological perspectives in Christianity. The millennialists present a convincing interpretation of the reign of Christ, arguing that it begins with the founding of the church and is an ongoing reality until his final return. According to this view, Christ exercises his rule in parallel with his followers, primarily through sacred rituals such as the Eucharist, and within the confines of his church. They asserted that the beginning of the kingdom of Christ originated in the formation of the church, especially emphasizing key events such as Pentecost, in the belief that its completion would only take place at the second coming of Christ. Millennialists understand the symbolic nature of the millennium mentioned in the book of Revelation, interpreting it as symbolizing the continuous age of the church. Although they may not use the term rapture explicitly, millenniumists predict a transformative event similar to the second coming of Christ. Their theological position places the beginning of the last days at Pentecost, with the Great Tribulation anticipated at the end of this vast period leading up to the return of Christ. What distinguishes a millennialist from premillennialists is their emphasis on Christ's rule throughout the various periods of the New Covenant, past and present, now and future. They consider the mention of Jerusalem in the book of Revelation to be connected with the New Jerusalem or the new heaven and new earth. In their view, the church serves as the foundation for laying the foundation for this messianic kingdom, which they believe is already present. In contrast to some premillennial views, millennialists do not consider the rebuilding of the Jerusalem temple necessary or valid, asserting that Christ's sacrifice on the cross meet the need for animal sacrifice. Historically influential figures such as St. Augustine have supported the millenarianist view, and today it is accepted by several major Christian traditions, including Catholicism, Orthodoxy, Eastern, Anglican, Lutheran, Methodist, Presbyterian, and Reformed congregations. This profound theological perspective emphasizes the continuing nature of Christ's rule and emphasizes the church's sacred role in preparing for a future illuminated by hope and promise. If the rapture is imminent, what actions will you prioritize? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. It's in the comment section below. It's in the comment section below. It's in the comments. Great.